Greetings, YouTube. So I was listening to news today, and they were discussing the fact that RFK Jr., the man who was in charge of the healthcare system, essentially of all of America, um, a man who has no medical training of any kind, and who has no history of being in charge of any kind of an organization at this scale, and who has a brainworm, and who is also anti-vax, is decided that he's going to cut a quarter of the manpower of the federal healthcare system. A quarter. And then he's claiming that it's not going to reduce services. This is going to spread misery. This is going to lead to suffering. This is going to lead to death. All at the hands of the GOP in their effort to once again destroy anything they can lay their hands on, which they will then eventually blame on the Democrats. And of course, the Democrats aren't really doing themselves any favor at the moment either, because they're waffling around and not actually standing up and putting up a fight. They're not particularly good at fighting. It's been my experience. Um, I wish kind of wish they were. But his reasoning is that we need to overhaul the American healthcare system. And for a man with the brainworm, he is correct. We do need to overhaul the American healthcare system. We need to throw out the middlemen and go to a single payer universal healthcare system, which will take your contribution to your healthcare from 20% of your paycheck down to 5% of your paycheck. And on top of that, it would save 67,000 lives a year and cover everyone in America. So it would save money, save lives, and cover everyone. But that would mean middlemen don't get their cut. So, of course, those middlemen have been bribing Congress for decades to make sure that that doesn't happen. And Congress has been more than willing to open its pockets and turn a blind eye to the fact that it's causing human suffering, bankruptcies, and death. Remember, we are the only developed country where people go bankrupt because of medical debt. And it's the most common form of bankruptcy when it comes to people's homes in America. They get sick and then they lose everything. No other nation deals with that. All the other industrialized nations have solved this problem. No one in those nations goes to debt, goes into bankruptcy because of medical debt, because they don't have medical debt, because they solved this problem, because they got rid of the middlemen. But in America, the middlemen are in charge, and they put somebody at the top of the American federal healthcare system who has a brainworm, doesn't believe in vaccinations, and doesn't have any medical training, because he was willing to bend the knee and kiss the ass of Chump. That's all it took. Bend his knee, kiss his ass, and he gets to be in charge of something that he himself doesn't have any respect for. Be in charge of something that he doesn't believe in, because he doesn't believe in modern medicine. He believes in healthy eating and, I don't know, exercise maybe? I think the man's a waffling idiot. And I know people are going to say, well, you just insulted him. So that's an ad hominem attack. That means it completely undermines your entire position. Too goddamn bad. The man's an idiot. He has no position, no right to be in this position. Anyone who's spent any time listening to him put more than three words together is never going to question the fact that he knows nothing about medicine and he should not be involved in healthcare in any way, shape, or form, except maybe receiving the healthcare that he needs to treat his deep anxieties and mental illness and help him move towards a fact-based world where he would stop being anti-vax and come to understand how safe they are and how useful they are and how many millions of lives they've saved. But in the meantime, he's in charge. He's going to do everything he can to break everything he can lay his hands on. And once the Republicans are no longer in power, they're going to say that as the Democrats try to rebuild the systems that they have broken, that Democrats want to spend your tax dollars on government waste. because, well, we trimmed the system, and the Democrats are trying to bloat it again, even though the Democrats are just gonna try to put back what the GOP broke. But the GOP will then use this as a rallying cry and get themselves reelected once again, because Republican voters are really that dim.